will be hard to follow like such an interesting talk, so I'm not talking about Sarek today, so that's like, I think, one of the first time I'm doing that, so bear with me. And yes, so I'm going today to talk about a tiny side project that I had, and like it's been an idea that was like running into my mind like for years, and I finally have been able to do that. So I will briefly like start with like a short history, how I created like this AWS open resource, how to use it, how to add data, how to updating, and what are the future plans. So a brief history. For me, and I think that's why I use like Nextflow, and that's why I'm like in this community, like reproducibility is central. And like we deal with the software, like with the container, like and I'm pretty sure like with Wave we will do that like even better. We deal with the parameters in the way that we build like our Nextflow pipeline, and we can deal with that like fairly good. And the main, for me, the next issue is that what we do with the reference file. So for most of our reference file, like at the moment we use like iGenomes, which work like fairly well, but then what do we do with the annotation? How do we deal with that? And that has been like one of the main issues that I've been like struggling like in building Sarek like for the last like 8 years. So that's my only slide like about Sarek, and I will keep it short. So many years ago, like all of the annotation like was done using like the local cache that was available on my institutional cluster, and that was the only way you could use like annotation. As we started like expanding and like having like other people using Sarek outside of like Sweden, that became like quickly a mess. Also, locally, it was a mess to try to update the cache. I think I still have one email like requesting like an update on the cache, and they replied to me like 1 year later, and I think they were still not updating that. So now they've become like way better, but yes, at that time it was not working fairly well. So I had one of my like worst ideas ever, and I said, why don't I build like containers with pre-downloaded cache inside? So people don't do that, seriously, that's a bad idea. I've been blamed by several people, but yes, it was working, it was reproducible, and I was happy with it. So at some point, I gained like access to a new cluster. I had like admin access, which is another bad idea. You should never like give me admin access to anything. And I made like full usage of like the local cache like for running Sarek. It was like working well, and I was like happy again with that. I was still maintaining like the containers with the pre-downloaded cache, and that was not optimal at all, because I managed like to to build like automatically like some of the container, but sometimes it was not working, so I was building all of that on my computer. I had like plenty of script to help me like automatize that, but I was still doing that on my computer. So when I was doing that at home, it was taking like the whole night because like bad internet connection, so I was always going to the lab to do that, and that was a mess. Recently, we added back into Sarek like the option like to download the cache with Sarek, which was like great, and also to directly, as soon as you get the cache, you run Sarek, and then you annotate with the cache already. So that's amazing, that works well, and I figured, but why don't we like push that like on the cloud? And that way, we have like we could have like a resource and like be able to use that for everyone that is running Sarek on the cloud. Because for me, if you're running on an HPC, you should download the cache like locally, and that's good. But if you're running on the cloud, then you need to have like a resource that is devoted to that. And I was like greatly inspired by AWS iGenomes. So I talked with some people at AWS, and that's how I created Annotation cache. This is like a non-meme like in the NF-core community. Every time I try to explain like how to deal with the annotation cache, like how to deal with the different like DB cache version, species and stuff, like no one understands what I'm explaining, so I'm hoping it will be better today. So how to create like an AWS like open resource? It's actually fairly simple. You can skip like most of the step. Actually, like you just need like the 5 first step. I decided like to do the rest like with Nextflow, but I will come to that later. So first, you need like to have an idea. My idea here in that case like, was like to create like a cache that was like a resource that people can use for annotation. Second step, you need to grab like other people to help you build that, because if you're alone, then it's a bad idea. You're building like an open resource, you should be with other person. So grab some friends to discuss about it and like make them like work with you even if they don't have time or even if they don't want to do it. Second, make a request to AWS open resource like to create this stuff. And for me, that was like the stuff that took the most time. It took me like 2 weeks just to write like a 5 line and ask the stuff. So yes, bad planning, but yes, it's fine. Second, like once you got like agreed to that, you get like all of the credentials that you need like to create an AWS organization. That was like super fast. And then you just need to create the infrastructure that you need to host your resource. So for me, I just needed like one S3 bucket, which is this one, like annotation cache. And then the rest, you can do it like by yourself on your computer, but I want to be reproducible, I want to be like in a community, and I want other people to be able to do what I'm doing, because I'm thinking, yes, at the moment I'm doing that, but what happens tomorrow? Maybe someone else can take over and like do that for me. And I will be super happy if someone can do that, but yes, it's another question. So we already have like some scripts in Nextflow, written in Nextflow, which are like in NF core module that we can use to download the cache. So that's simple. I'm fairly lucky like, to work at Seqera, so I know that we have like this wonderful platform called the Seqera Platform that we can use to actually like create a compute environment like for me on AWS. I did that like once by myself. I think that was still while I was at NGI, and I can do it by myself, but it was badly configured. It was such a mess, and I don't want to do that ever again. So I'm like so happy that I can do that with just a single click, and that's super nice. Then I just like add all of the scripts that we have like on the platform. I launch the script, and it's already everything published to the S3 bucket, and it's all done, and I can use it. So that's amazing. There was like one tiny problem that I discovered like while I was like creating that. So both of the tools, like SnipF and VIP, they are like amazing tools. They work like super well, but they work super well when you work like on a local HPC with a file system. They work like super well because they take like as an input the root cache folder, and then the whole structure inside, it's a whole architecture of folder and subfolders, is organized by like cache version, genome build, species, and like it's a whole mess, and which is where like the meme is coming from. And the tools itself, like themselves, they resolve the path internally given the input. So I'm just showing it. So for example, with SnipF, I'm using here like as one of the input like of the tool, like the path to the root folder of the annotation cache, like for SnipF. And with the argument that I give to SnipF, which is here like the DB argument, it corresponds to this subfolder. So if I'm running on GRCH38 with the 105 like version of the cache, I get this one. If I want like another cache version, it has to be like another DB. If I want another species, it has to be another DB. So SnipF is fairly simple. Then if I look at like VIP, it's an extra layer of complexity. We still have like the same system where we have as an input like the root folder, and then we have like first the species, so C. elegans, Homo sapiens. Then we have like the cache version, so 110. Both of the versions like look similar, but like they are different tools, so they don't relate to each other. And then which is the genome. And that's how you use like the cache. So for me, if I want to use that on the cloud, I cannot point to the root cache folder, because if I do like a S3 copy, it will copy for me like the whole infrastructure inside of my like where I work, and that's bad, and I don't want to do that. I just want like to copy a single infrastructure. So I had like another bad idea, and I decided that I'm going to do what the tool we are using. I will like organize everything the way I want, like in the bucket, and I will let the tool that I launched, like to use annotation cache, to handle all of that logic for me. So that's what I did. I added like an extra layer of like of architecture, and inside like each folder acts as its own like separate instance. And I deal with that whole logic internally within Sarek. So as an example, within Sarek, what I just do here is that I specify like what is my snippet cache with that, what is my VIP cache with that, and I deal with everything like with the whole like subfolder and architecture within Sarek, and we don't have to take care about that. Of course, it still works like locally with your local cache, and that's perfect. I'm not going to do a demo. I think you had like enough demo for the summit, but yes. Adding data. Adding data is actually like fairly simple. So I have like two scripts, one to download the cache for snip, one to download snipf, one to download the cache for VIP. I have one config file where I list like all of the different like parameters that I need like for to build and to download like this reference. I have, of course, like one Seqera platform and one AWS bucket. So I just choose like which genome I want to build. I push one button, and it gets downloaded. If I want to update, it's fairly simple. That's the same slime again, but because that's the same logic, I update the script, which are tied like to a version, and then I can update like whatever I want. And more or less, that was all. So for me, what are like my plan for the future? So to deploy that like in other NF Core pipeline, I think like the pipeline that we just showed, like that Raquel just showed, is like a good idea for that. I would love to have that also in RNA var. Maybe I think we can talk with RAM and the rare disease pipeline to see if that could be of interest for them as well. I would love to see like some deployment like outside of NF Core as well. Of course, with all that, we will need like better docs, a better website. I haven't shown any pictures of the website because I designed it myself, and it's super bad. I would want also a real dedicated like channel for communication, because at the moment I'm just like hiding like in a Slack channel on the NF Core Slack, and I want like to have like a proper channel like for communication. So I will like sort this out. Of course, being like at Seqera, I know that we have developed like within the team this amazing tool like Seqera Kit, and I'm pretty sure I can use that like to have like some smart automation and help me like populate all of these resources. And maybe at some point adding some more annotation tools and like expand like the reach of this resource. Of course, I want to thank like everyone that helped me, and no, everyone that I dragged like really into this project, especially Rike and Adam. I'm sorry for all of the people that I annoyed and that I'm not mentioning here, but yes, mainly I want to thank like the whole like NF Core community. And if you have any question, I think now is the time.